You believe you earn money. You believe you save money. You believe you control money. That belief is the first rule, because the most powerful systems do not announce themselves. They let you feel free. For most of human history, money was simple. If you held it, you owned it. If you lost it, it was gone forever. Gold in your hand meant power. Silver in your pocket meant choice. Land meant survival. Control was physical, visible, personal. Then something changed. Quietly, gradually, almost invisibly. Money stopped being something you held and became something you accessed. At first, this felt like progress. Banks offered safety. Governments offered stability. Institutions offered trust. People were told their money was safer behind walls than in their hands. They were told experts knew better. They were told the system was built to protect them. And for a while, it worked. But every system built for protection can also be used for control. That is the hidden rule no one explains. By the 20th century, money was no longer gold. It was paper backed by promises. Then it was numbers backed by authority. And authority always comes with conditions. You no longer owned money outright. You were granted access to it. Access governed by rules you did not write. Rules written in legal language, rules buried in policy, rules enforced without warning. You could work your entire life. You could do everything right and still lose access overnight. Because control does not come from how hard you work. It comes from who sets the rules, and those rules were never written for you. Banks can delay withdrawals. Governments can freeze accounts. Institutions can redefine what is allowed. Not tomorrow, not in theory, but today. This is not about conspiracy. It is about structure. The modern financial system is not designed to give you control. It is designed to give you compliance. Compliance feels invisible when everything is working. It only becomes visible when you step out of line. History shows this pattern again and again. Empires did not collapse when people lost money. They collapsed when people realized they never controlled it. Rome learned this when coinage was debased. Citizens still had coins, but those coins no longer held power. Germany learned this during hyperinflation. People had money, but money no longer meant security. Every collapse begins the same way, not with force, but with rules. Rules that quietly change what money means. Rules that redefine ownership into permission. And once money becomes permission, control is already gone. Most people never notice this shift, because the system does not need to take freedom. It only needs you to assume you still have it. And that is where the real danger begins. Every system of money has rules, but the real question is never how money works. The real question is who decides how it works. Most people assume governments control money. That assumption is convenient and incomplete, because governments do not create money alone. They manage it. The rules are written elsewhere. Modern money is governed by a triangle: central banks, commercial banks, and legal frameworks designed to protect the system, not the individual. The structure did not appear by accident. It was built slowly, layer by layer, crisis by crisis. Every financial panic added a new rule. Every collapse justified more control. Every emergency expanded authority. The Great Depression did not only destroy wealth, it rewrote monetary power. Banks were no longer allowed to fail freely. Governments stepped in as guarantors. Central banks gained unprecedented influence. Money became political. Then came World War II. And with it, Bretton Woods. Currencies were tied together. The dollar became dominant. Gold became distant. This was sold as stability. But stability always comes at a price. When currencies are centralized, decision-making becomes centralized. And when decision-making becomes centralized, individual control disappears. Over time, banks stopped being vaults. They became gatekeepers. They decide when transfers clear. They decide what transactions are flagged. They decide which behaviors are suspicious. Not because they want power, but because the rules demand it. Compliance replaced trust. Anti-money laundering laws expanded. Know your customer requirements tightened. Monitoring became constant. At first, these measures targeted criminals, then terrorists, then tax evasion. Eventually, they targeted behavior. Money began carrying conditions: where you spend it, who you send it to, what you support. And the rules became automated. Algorithms do not debate. Systems do not explain. Flags do not negotiate. An account is either allowed or it is not. This is why freezes feel sudden, because they are not decisions. They are outcomes. Outcomes triggered by rule sets written long ago. And once triggered, no human face appears. You do not argue with a system. You appeal to it. That difference matters, because appeals acknowledge authority. Ownership does not require permission. The more abstract money becomes, the easier it is to control. Digital balances can be paused. Transfers can be reversed. Access can be throttled. Cash resists this, which is why cash is disappearing. Not because it is inefficient, but because it is uncontrollable. History confirms this pattern. When rulers wanted obedience, they restricted coinage. When empires wanted compliance, they controlled trade routes. When modern states want alignment, they regulate money flows. The method evolves. The objective does not. And the most powerful rule of all is this: you do not need to break the law to lose access. You only need to violate policy. Policy is flexible. Law is slow. Policy can change overnight. Law takes years. That is why policy governs money now, and that is why control feels invisible until it is exercised. Most people never test the boundaries. They live comfortably inside them. But systems are not built for average days. They are built for stress, and under stress, rules harden. That is when money stops behaving like money and starts behaving like a switch, on, off. And in that moment, you realize something unsettling. The rules were never designed for your freedom. They were designed for system survival, and survival always comes before choice. The most effective systems of control are never loud. They do not announce themselves. They do not demand obedience openly. They feel normal. By the time people realize control exists, they are already living inside it. That is the final rule of money. Power does not need to take your freedom. It only needs to manage access. Once access is managed, behavior follows automatically. This is why modern control does not rely on force. It relies on friction. Small delays, extra steps, temporary holds, routine reviews, nothing dramatic, nothing illegal, just inconvenience. And inconvenience shapes behavior better than fear. People stop asking questions. They stop pushing boundaries. They stop risking access. Not because they are told to, because the system rewards silence. This is how compliance is trained. History shows this clearly. In authoritarian systems, control was obvious. Police, borders, uniforms. People resisted because they could see the threat. Modern systems learned from this mistake. Control works best when it feels technical, administrative, procedural. When denial feels like an error, not a decision. That is why money is the perfect tool. Money touches everything. Food, housing, travel, medical care. When money requires permission, every part of life becomes conditional. You do not need to be punished. You only need to be slowed. A delayed transfer here, a blocked category there, a review that never finishes. Life becomes narrower without anyone announcing it. This is why programmable money is dangerous, not because it will be abused immediately, but because it does not need to be. The possibility is enough. Once people know money can be restricted, they adjust in advance. They self-censor. They self-limit. They self-control. The system no longer needs enforcement. People enforce it themselves. This is not speculation. During financial crises, capital controls always appear. Withdrawals are limited. Transfers are restricted. Spending is monitored. Authorities always promise it is temporary. It never is. Temporary controls become permanent safeguards. Safeguards become policy. Policy becomes infrastructure. And infrastructure never disappears. After 2008, emergency measures reshaped global banking forever. After 2020, digital surveillance expanded permanently. After every crisis, the rules tightened, never loosened. That is the pattern. The reason is simple. Systems are designed to survive stress. Freedom is not. When stability and choice conflict, choice loses every time. This is why the idea of ownership is fading. You do not own money. You access it. You do not control it. You comply with its rules. You do not decide how it works. You accept how it behaves. And as long as it behaves for you, you feel free, until one day it does not. That moment is never announced. It arrives quietly. A declined transaction, a frozen account, a request for review, and suddenly you understand. The system was never broken. It was functioning exactly as designed. The hidden rules were always there. You just never needed to see them. This is why understanding money matters more than earning it. Because income without control is temporary. Savings without access are illusions. And wealth without ownership is permission. If you want to see how these systems form before they are complete, if you want to understand power before it becomes irreversible, and if you want clarity instead of comfort, stay here. Subscribe. Not because this channel predicts the future, but because it explains the system shaping it